Good evening, everyone. Welcome once again to this YM program of KMA. So, before we begin, let's start with a silent prayer. Thank you. Okay, next is the welcome address. Fellow KMA members, dear students, YM members, secretariat team, don't see any past presidents here. I am indeed happy once again to stand before you this evening and welcome you. But before that, let me just tell you, I don't know whether you've got the mails have been sent to all the members, not yet. So I'm happy to let you all know that KMA has been recognized as the best local management association in the country. We received the award in Delhi a couple of days back, and we had a team of about 13 people from here. So the award goes like this. There are different categories of awards. Normally, 14 times we have won the Best LMA award, but this time we have won something called the Most Improved LMA, which is above all this. So this is the highest award that All India Management Association gives to any local management association, and KMA has been able to get that. So undoubtedly we have been judged as the best LMA in the country. So I'm indeed happy because being the president for that particular year, last year, I'm indeed happy. Today I'm happy to stand before you because of this initiative called YM, which we started last year, and it is continuing very seriously into the second year. And so we are trying to concentrate on programs that will help our youngsters to come up in business, or take you to level next if you are in business. And we are trying to identify people who are experts in their domains to help all of us, the upcoming business people. Of course, even I see a lot of people who are accomplished, but still it will be a great session for all of you. So I'm indeed happy to welcome my very good friend, Mr. Seshadri Nathan, who is an expert in financial affairs. He's a chartered accountant, he's a CFA, he's an MBA, and whatnot. He's got experience dealing with multiple sectors, financial sectors in different countries across the world. So it is great that we could get Sesh to speak to us on this subject, which I'm sure will help all of us throw more insights into the financial world for all of us to take our businesses to the level next. One thing that when I did a research of capital for companies, because I'm in the healthcare sector, so every company is actually known for its health through its balance sheets, and so if the balance sheet is healthy, we call it a healthy company, just like an individual. For an individual, as we all know, probably there are so many other things that come into our minds, like probably your blood pressure, your blood sugar and all that. But here it is always the balance sheet, the profit and loss account, which shows profit on one side, a great turnover on the other side, and many other things, which I'm sure you management students know about. So, but one thing that always takes one company to the level next is capital, and capital always obviously comes from, either a plowback of our profits or from external sources, which I'm sure that Mr. Seshadri is going to throw light on. As I was doing a small research, I found out one thing. Quick money always fades away. It's money that we have worked hard for that stays with us and takes us or catapults anyone to better heights in terms of their business. A study reveals that does anybody in this room sitting here, especially the children, I'm asking you, even for you, slightly more experienced people, anybody in this room know anybody who has won a lottery and is still a millionaire? It will be very hard to find. You know why? Because they have got easy money. They have put in their money either to lavishly spend on their dreams, and then 5 or 10 years down the line they realize they have become paupers again, or they have reached back to the state where they started from. So this is the theory of money. But then there is also a study that says about 30% of people who have done business with money that has come like this through lotteries and things like that have succeeded, and they have sustained beyond 10 years. If they sustain it beyond 10 years, that means probably that business will take on, and that capital, they have used it properly. But that's a very, very small number. So once again, I thank all of you for coming here on this Friday evening. We are continuing the same pace as we did last year, and we are having the Insight X series or the YM series for our lecture talk. And let me thank Seshadri and welcome him for coming around, and for the formal welcome. Of course, Nivedit, our chair for the YM is here, Anup is here. Welcome to both of you as custom demands it, and all of you once again a warm welcome to this evening, and let's hope that we have a very enlightening evening today. And for introducing the speakers, I would request Nivedit to come on stage.
Thank you, sir. It is requested to kindly remove car number KL07CW1711 from the parkway. Over to you, sir.
I think you found the car person in the room. Good evening, everyone. It's my privilege today to introduce our speaker, Mr. Seshadri Nathan Krishnan, or Nathan as he's known by friends and family, which I think we can be part of. Nathan is one of those rare professionals who has quite literally worked across the world with over 25 years of international experience in strategy, valuations, corporate finance, and investments. He has consulted on deals worth up to $1 billion, spanning 6 continents. I saw on his LinkedIn that his interest in numbers started at the age of 11, and he became a CA by the age of 22. Further, he became, that is actually very impressive. He's also a CFA Charterholder and an executive MBA from IIM Kozhikode. But more than the degrees, what stands out is the sheer breadth of his work. From his early days in Nest Technologies to EY to building and leading his own consulting firms, to even mentoring startups and advising boards across Asia, US, Europe, Africa, and the Middle East. If you notice, there's only one continent I missed. I think it was Antarctica. Probably not many businesses there. Mr. Nathan today wears many hats. He's an investor, registered valuer, mentor, and angel network member. He co-founded Seshadri Nathan Securities Pvt and Open Quiver Consulting. He actively advises startups through networks like Mumbai Angels and Kerala Angels. He's also a Rotarian, an author of a textbook on valuation, and someone who contributes his time generously to mentoring and educating on finance, like he's here doing with us today. In short, Mr. Nathan has been on every side of the table as a banker, as an advisor, an investor, and as a mentor, which makes him the perfect person to guide us tonight on expanding our business horizons. and understanding the routes to capital, both national and international. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Seshadrinathan Krishnan.
So good evening, young minds and grey hair with young minds. It's a pleasure and it's also humbling to stand here. Humbling because the name that you see there, M.K. Nagar, is somebody who my father admired because he worked in electricity. So when I told him that, when he started seeing the KMA newsletter, that's when he came to know that I've become somehow part of KMA, and he was looking at me with some sort of admiration that I could see in his eyes. That made it humbling, and this side I see friends like Vivek was my batchmate, as president. So in between them, I find this a very humbling experience. And thank you, Vibhu, for the invite as well as Numeris for this kind introduction. Let me start by giving a small background on this presentation. It doesn't have any numbers, so don't worry about it. You might expect being a CA, you would see some numbers and all that. I've kept it very an overview that if you're starting a new business, you can probably relate to it, have a vision going forward, and if you have a running business, you should be able to relate to it with some of the things that you can take forward. And the other thing I would request all of you is we'll keep it more interactive. As discussed with Vibhu and the team, I've kept a little bit more time than usual for Q&A. So if you have questions towards the end, even if it's something related to that I have not covered in the presentation, feel free to ask. So the question that comes to my mind when you talk about expanding horizons that I'm trying to address here is, first, of course, you may want to grow your business, and since we are in this kind of an environment today, you may also want to navigate some of the disruptions that are caused by external factors that a lot of businesses, especially in Kerala, will be facing. Capital is a clear way to take care of a lot of these things, right? So whether you are facing disruption from tariffs or from your competition, capital builds you that fortress balance sheet that can prevent and in fact build a moat around your business. So that's one aspect. The second aspect is if you're running a family business or a business where people around you think about it as one way to expand your family wealth and as well as your legacy. And some of you are young, so thinking about legacy maybe too deep or too far for you, but start thinking around those lines like I was talking about. The idea behind this is maybe this is not what excites you maybe as you go along, probably when you turn 30, 40, 50, whatever milestone that you have in mind. So maybe you want to start a non-profit, a foundation or something of that sort. So this may be a good way to think about it that way. The other is you can help a lot of people who are extended family this way. So shareholders, maybe some of your employees will benefit through stock options and things of that nature. There are multiple examples even from Kerala where people have done that. So, but when you think about all this, now I'll talk about how you orient yourself to thinking about asking investors for money. So first thing is, how do you articulate your value proposition and growth strategy? So there are some quick words, so just to simplify that, the small cartoon there. So it talks about, whether you have an expensive watch or not, it still tells time. Why do you need an expensive watch is what the person is asking, right? So that essentially questioning about what your value proposition and what is the value that a consumer buying your product or a service sees in their minds. So we can clearly, see from this room itself that the watch is not what people are looking for. It's the prestige that comes from wearing that particular brand of watch, or from displaying that comes across as the value proposition, right? So the point I'm trying to make is the value is in the mind of the user and not what you always try to convey. The other example I have read long back is Whirlpool had launched washing machines. So these are the type of washing machines which are top loading that you find these days more common, but this was talking about in the 90s, early 2000s. And one of the strange markets where they found consumers buying this a lot is dabas. So they are wondering why dabas are buying these kind of washing machines. Eventually somebody visited the daba and they found that they were using it to make lassis because it has that kind of function. So you put curd into it or milk into it and it becomes lassi. So this was constantly running. So that is the value proposition that a washing machine offered a daba. So you will find strange ways consumers find using your product. Now, the second part of it is once you cross that barrier, this may be the easier barrier because you can talk to the consumer, talk to the buyer of the product and find what they see value. The second story has a lot of layers to it. So the financial story, which is packaging the numbers, projections, valuations. So today morning I was talking to startups in ICAI, which is the deep tech startup forum in Tamil Nadu, and I was talking to them about projections. And the big difference between them and your business would be they don't have any same way of predicting how their business will go. In your case, that if you are not a startup in a very new area, it may be much easier for you to project and eventually come to talk about some sensible way of talking about numbers. But the other larger thing that you probably read in the newspapers, in media, and get influenced by is what I'm throwing in the cartoon. So Gilbert and Scott Adams and others have portrayed it really well. So back in the days, in the 90s, it was all about adding a .com to your company's name and you get funding immediately. These days, for a little while ago, it was all about talking about blockchain and how you're going to use blockchain. So I've seen all kinds of pictures sitting as angel investors where people talk about blockchain. Then when you start asking about them to describe what blockchain is, they will not know. Today it's the case with AI. So everyone wants to talk about as if they are using AI. And once you start talking about things like asking things like where is your training data going to come from? How are you going to train? That's where the track becomes more clearer. They are just adding AI so that funding becomes easy. So this kind of market flavor will always exist. And I think a little while before blockchain, it was something else, digital cloud. And before that, if you say just internet, people would fund you. So there are all these things, crazy things that happen in the market all the time. And it can work in your favor, it may not work in your favor as a businessman. Because one thing that I keep hearing all the time is, I have a profitable business today, but nobody wants to fund me. They are funding all these loss-making startups. So that is something that I commonly hear from people who are running brick and mortar traditional businesses. So the rules of the game are different. You are probably addressing or talking to different kind of audiences. So again, this is more talking about what AI is, that AI tsunami is funding all this today. And I'm sure there are startups, founders within this audience who are doing that. And the other small cartoon is about Christmas being portrayed as sort of in the same way as AI, right? So I am just trying to convey all this in a very light fashion, but it's a very serious sort of underpinning that you will find in this market. Now, the other larger aspect that you need to think about is governance. But governance, I mean, we can talk about multiple sides of governance, having independent board, stuff like that. But essentially, it's all about identity change. Today, you are people, say, who studied together, started a company, people from same family who started a company, and you are running with a family board, maybe, or friends, family, and probably some advisors on the board who are helping you with decision making. But once you start thinking about external funds, your identity you're actually thinking about changing your own identity. So what comes with it? So I'm trying to highlight some of the common things that I've seen, or most common things that I've seen across different businesses. So one is that roles/titles may not actually convey the decision making power within most of the businesses that are either family run or closely held. So you would see a CFO who actually runs operations. So you would see somebody who is accountant, who is glorified as VP Finance, because they have grown within the system. So that is the other part of it. About a lot of businesses, you tend to reward loyalty, and therefore you have to keep promoting somebody who has been with you for so many years. Right? Even they may not eventually fit to work a role where you are going, but you may be obligated, or you feel obliged to do something like that. And then you have somebody who has been auditing your company, and suddenly the investor comes and says, I want one of these big names to audit my company. Suddenly this auditor will now be jobless. You are probably big client. So you take him on as advisor on the board or things of that nature. Or even in few cases where I've seen they step in and become head of finance for the company. So these are some of the role changes that you will see, and some of these things are not clearly defined roles when you are running it, or when you are changing it, you may need to address that. And I'll also talk about in the same context. So we in Kerala Angels invested in a company some years ago, so this is a company that went from family founders to Kerala Angels is one of the first investors who's coming on board. So September, October passed, and the coordinator called up and asked, when is your AGM happening? We want to see what your last year's performance is on the financial report. Right? So the founder says, you've already conducted the AGM and filed. The company secretary took care of it. So that's how usually smaller businesses, even if they are companies, do it. But the founder hasn't realized that now you are accountable to these investors. You are supposed to send the notice out. You're supposed to send the financials out with that, and then have them an opportunity, give them an opportunity to ask questions and all that. Right? So those kind of changes also are part of this whole fundraise. And the other point I highlighted was about loyalty versus capability. So I'm not saying that somebody who's loyal is not capable, but there are cases where there will be always those kind of mismatches. And the other larger thing that comes in the case, and highlighted in that cartoon also, is that how do you handle succession planning in a lot of these businesses that get funded. So some of the children tend to be part of the business, and they are part of the business because it's a family business and they are helping out their dad or whoever it might be running. And but when a new investor comes on board, this whole equation changes. Because now they see the founder and the children. The child, the next generation may or may not be qualified to run the job. They may have different ideas on how to run the company. So all of those dynamics now come into play. The third party is sitting there, and if it is not the right kind of investor or if they are under some kind of pressure, you may even eventually see the family split happening because of their involvement. So that is the other dynamic that we need to worry about. And a lot of cases, the next generation may be in a totally different country, especially in Kerala. They may have migrated, they may have settled abroad, they may be doing something else, they may be in different businesses. So how do you handle all of that? Do you pass on just ownership to the next generation? Are they part of the management? These are things to think about for more older generations, and for the newer generations, you think from the other point of view, whether if you are part of a family business, are you doing justice to your family business? Would somebody else step into that same role and do much better? So I'm just asking you to think about, I'm not saying passing judgments or coming in. Now the third layer that would come in is you would have these professional managers who would either come in, you would be forced to hire, or you would want to hire because they are bringing in skill sets. Now how do they fit in with this family managed business? If it is a very large business, all those group dynamics, English speaking guy versus Malayalam speaking guy, if you bring in somebody from outside the state, those dynamics come into play. You are bringing in all of these into your business. So I'm not trying to scare you, but these are things that you need to think about. And finally, the transparency and accountability issue. So if you're running a family business or closely held business, the vehicle may be owned by the company, you will be using it for personal purpose, which a lot of people do for primarily tax management and other reasons. You will be using company owned stuff for personal purpose, nobody cares because it's all part of the same family. But once an investor comes in, you need that separation. And this happens also in startups. I was talking to a Marwari founder who is expanding into US with this business that is running for some years now. So he owns the property where the development team is sitting in his family's name, in his HGF's name. He has another thing where it is being rented. I think it's the vehicle or something, it's his personal name, it's being rented to the company. Now investors are now saying, and it's not big investment that he's asked for, they are coming in with something like 10%, 15%, that kind of stake, and they are asking for very onerous kind of terms where he has to lease the property at market rates, eventually give out these vehicles, and then the other more stringent thing that they put on him is he's sitting in the US and California, and they want him only to take a $25,000 salary annually because that's what he's been drawing today. And he's saying, I draw it primarily to meet my apartment rent and costs like that. I don't need to draw because it's my company anyway, I get the benefit. But once investors come in, they should pay me market salary for somebody doing business development sitting in US, getting US clients. So that is the dynamic that comes into play, and that's the tussle between managing shareholder money versus managing family money. So I will stop here, and my contact is up there, and if you have any questions that you may want to ask later, feel free. Best way to reach me is on WhatsApp on that number. Feel free to connect on any of these links that I've shared. And open the floor for questions.
It was fun watching your presentation, sir. And then Bibu should be a very tired man, but very, very happy because of the award. I think he deserves that. Last year, I think he's been running around. He still has that tired look on his face. He has come here still, and then we've done an excellent job. I think last year it was full. I mean, every time somebody asks you are in KMA, that's the kind of program he had arranged. And the presentation too was very focused and very helpful.
I had a question. So you mentioned that businesses making profit are having a harder time getting funding. So what do those businesses do, and which industries that meaning which industries and profit-making businesses are more likely to get funding also?
I'm glad you asked that question because I didn't spend enough time to clarify that when I was talking about it. So when an investor today looks at, and I'm talking about institutional VC, those kind of investors, not IPO market investors. When they look at a company, they're asking the question, how can you grow faster? Right? So if you're making profits, what that means is that either you are not spending enough on product development, or the second could be that you are not tapping enough markets. Which both of these lead to growth, is at least in the mind of the investor. So, so the rationale for a loss-making company is that how that is adding to future growth. So that is where that balance comes in. So it's not just about spending money and buying the Rolls Royce or whatever it is that you want. It's more about how you increase the market size or tap or penetrate deeper into markets. So those are two things where investors are usually happy to spend money. Another set of investors or founders I'm advising right now are people who have come from larger corporates setting up a business. So they are thinking that I will take a salary which is equivalent to that, and they'll take investor money to do that. That's always they get a no from all the investors that they've spoken to, regardless of what their existing relations are. So they also expect you as a founder to put in the same kind of sacrifice. But addressing your question, this flavor keeps changing. So today I was saying it's AI, but AI with a very I mean, you can't just say AI and get smart money. It's more about what, I mean, you have to lay out a plan. You have to show where you're going to get, like I said, training data, or are you using the GPTs, or are you doing something else differently. So all of those things get asked.
Hi, my name is Joe, and I'm the founder of a healthcare startup called Ace Dementia Technologies. So we started our journey around 3 years back, and we raised our first round from angels in US. So now I think we believe that we are ready for for the next scaling phase, probably like exploring some VCs, right? So from this angels to VC, that stage, like being a founder, what are some of the aspects like we need to be a little mindful so that we can do the things like as per the compliance or doing things in the right way.
So angels, as the name suggests, are usually very soft, and depending on which group it is.
Yeah.
So there are very hardcore groups which are more like VCs, but typically a Kerala Angel Network or some of those type of angels tend to be very soft with you. They won't drive you. They will want to walk with you, and so that is the nature of angels. With VCs, and we are talking about the real, again, hardcore VCs. What their expectation will be that you will drive this business faster, and they will put terms in the term sheet, hide it in the term sheet in such a way that they will make money regardless of whether you heads or tails. Right? So regardless they will make money. So one aspect I would advise you strongly is get a good lawyer who can go through that term sheet and then fill your documentation to get enough support in this ecosystem. And KSOMS has good empaneled people there. That's the key part in the first, when you sign it. The other expectation-wise, it's almost like you're working for one of the larger corporates, and you are the business development or product development person. Right? There are exceptions, but I'm saying this is one extreme. Right? So first I'll try to scare you. If you have a better experience, tell us which is that DC and we can approach them for our cases. Right? But that's the usual experience or more normal experience. There are, there are VCs. So I'm advising a venture studio in New York, and they actually joke. There are a couple of South African founders, and they are based in New York. But every time one of the founders flies to Florida, it's one of their South African investors. He will come back with a check of $250,000. So there are some of those who are as generous as that. Venture studio business is, unlike most startups, requires a lot of patient capital as well. So somehow they have hit upon the right kind of investors and right chemistry. So that is what actually eventually matters. And I think one of the things I was talking about is, are you going to optimize for money, or are you going to optimize for the investor who will have few other qualities, right? So you may get better valuation with X, but somebody else may offer either one strategic advantage in terms of, say, more investments in healthcare, or it could even be understanding that market a little better, or maybe there are people who are probably a little bit more mission oriented sitting in that team. All of those things matter, and so don't go by the pure financial terms. You may end up winning in the long run, probably with a little bit lesser valuation from your side. But that's the trade-off you need to make.
My name is Suresh Kumar. As you know, I am a senior fellow, and my question will be regarding the artificial intelligence, AI. How does it help the new product developments and R&D? Because as all of us know, our requirements of the fruit, our food, shelter, health, transport, communications, etc. Everything is what you do is for that only. So in that case, the AI, how is it going to help the new product development in all these areas?
Yeah, so I don't know enough about AI to tell you that, but I'll share one experience I had with somebody who was teaching AI. I was in a sort of crash course of AI for about 2 weeks. One of the things I saw was this guy is doing product development. He demonstrated how he uses, in this case, it was Comet, one of the Perplexity launched a browser of their own, which is, they claim is AI native, and this guy is using that. So what he does is, every morning or every Monday morning, he has a search, automatic, what we call a search running. And he goes to forums like Reddit. What it is set for is, this particular thing goes to, or provides him a list of 10 ideas every Monday morning. So imagine waking up, opening your computer, 10 ideas are sitting in front of you with the criteria that you have set. And this is based on discussions from forums like Reddit or few other forums that he mentioned. And that is your product idea. Right? Then when you talk about, we were just sitting downstairs and talking about it, any tech product development these days, you can say with 90% accuracy, you can do it with any of these AI tools. So you don't need to do coding. What younger chaps call it as vibe coding, you can do through these kind of AI tools. And there are specialized tools, no-code tools, all of that. Let's not get into that technical aspect. But there are ways you can do that. Then the third way that I've seen being done is, you can look through research papers. Humanly, you cannot look through 1,000 research papers in one day, right? But AI can probably do that for you. If you give a problem saying that, look for the best solution for X, it can probably give you, say, 10 different research papers which are peer reviewed. You can set the criteria and it will come back with results for you. So this is for our generation, think of it as search advanced. So that is the first way this can help us. And I was explaining the other way I use it is in the old days, if I want some kind of industry research done, you would have initial call with the client, say that we'll get back next week. So that's how big consultants usually say. But I was explaining a case where I was talking to somebody in Kenya. They were telling me that this biogas stove that they are using, which is very popular in that market, there is some kind of moat built around that particular product. And I couldn't understand what they were talking about. I just gave one query to Gemini and one query to Perplexity. Both of them gave good answers. And as I'm sitting in the call, I'm able to talk with a little bit more informed manner than what I would have otherwise said. Wait for 1 week and then have that same conversation after doing some research. So those are some of the ways probably that can help you.
So you worked with founders across 6 continents. So what are some of the interesting qualities or differences you find, and what are some maybe things that Indian founders can emulate from them?
And this is not specific to Indian founders versus others. This is specific also to Indian employees versus other employees. So what I've seen from all my work ex as well, sitting in offices here, is you are not doing focused work when you're in office. Take the case of any employee. Most of them are not doing focused work. They will be attending personal calls, they will be taking or planning for whatever event that they have coming up, etc. etc. So 8-hour work spreads to 12 hours, and then 6 days you do that, and people complain about having long working hours. So compare that to, say, I work in the US, so US office, you start working at 8, you finish at 4 or 5, but between that time, only call that say somebody would take is if the wife is calling, or if there is an emergency, if the husband is calling, and if there is an emergency. Those kind of calls only get taken. Anything else, they don't pick up the phone, and this I'm talking about even with mobile phones around. So that is a big difference, and that is the kind of focus that I even see with founders. So when people say they are working 10 hours, they actually mean they are working 10 hours a day. So that is something that is worth emulating, but then we have our limitations, right? So you have to go to the bank for something, you can't, bank doesn't open after 7 hours. So those kind of things are there, but still within that you can still do a lot of these focus work. And there is, I'm not saying one is better than the other or anything like that. What happens as a result is quality of decisions tend to be much better when you do focused work like that. And, at a young age you can do that. I have done that. So I started my architecture very close by. I used to work, 7 days a week, or we were forced to work 7 days a week, and start at 8 or 9 in the morning, go till 9, 10. It was normal. So, and cell phones those days, so we used to work and work. So at that age you can do that. Probably later things change. So that is one sort of big difference that I've seen. And the other is, of course, and this I hear more from foreigners than my personal observation, is that we tend to look at law as little flexible. So, so they tend to think of it as being unethical, but here a red light doesn't always mean stop. Right? So that tends to extend to other parts of legal compliances as well, which can be, and including my old profession, CS, do the same thing. So I'm not excluding anybody in that community, including myself. So that's something to learn from a lot of these foreign startups. there are exceptions. If you deal with Russians, that part of the world, they tend to be a lot more flexible with the rules that we have set. And contract terms might be something, they might do something else. So those are some cultural elements to it, but generally some of the best practices that we can copy is what I'm trying to share.
Good evening, sir. My name is Devika. I'm a student from Thavens. So my question is, how does the working capital management change when we are scaling up a business?
So very interesting question. It has a long answer, but I'll try to keep it short. So, so one of the CEOs who used to work, or whom my father used to work with, used to say that you just eliminate the zeros at the end and it's always the same number, right? So think of lakhs as thousands, think of crores as again thousands, because zeros don't have value, right? So you tend to make easier decisions that way. So that's one way to look at working capital also. But the larger point is in working capital, so let's say you're starting a D2C business today, right? Or even a business that is consumer focused. Let's take that you're starting a soft drink today or a drink that you want to get to the market, right? So your leverage with somebody like a Lulu or supermarkets will be different than somebody who has like, let's take HUL, right? So that will be the first difference that you will see. So as you scale, you get more leverage, negotiating leverage, and you will be able to get better terms. And even if you're, so I have friends who have had really good products, but they were never able to place it in the right kind of stores to do that. And they had world-class products. So the other part of working capital that will affect you poorly is you have the same problem with your vendors. So there is a case that I was hearing last year about if you want to do glass bottles, there are only a few players who do glass bottles, who make glass bottles. Plastic bottles you will get, but if you want glass bottles of certain specifications based on customization for your type of product, those are hard to do because there are very few players doing this. So that will be the other area where you will have less favorable terms on you. So all of this tends to affect your capital. Right? So all of this eventually flows into your capital in terms of more days of inventory that you have to carry because your minimum order quantity is much higher. Your payable terms are less favorable. You have to pay your vendor faster, or even higher price as well. And your receivables probably extend beyond the 45 days, 60 days. That is the norm. So all of this eventually tends to flow into your balance sheet. So that is one other reason I always tell founders. Founders usually come with P&L and they say that ours is great business. Come with balance sheet and cash flow, and then we'll see is my usual response because of precisely this reason. So sometimes working capital could be something else as well. It could be that you have different terms for, let's say, hiring space or whatever it is. That could show up only through balance sheets.
Hi, sir. You mentioned loyal versus capable in one of your screens. So my question is, how do you actually give more decision-making power or more pay to an upcoming talent than the loyal person who's been there for many years?
Yeah, that's always a challenge. I don't have an answer that I can share with you, but I'm saying it's a challenge because it depends on individual. It depends on what your culture is, how well you've communicated that transition to your team. As in, I mean, if you're especially business in Kerala, there will always be that guy who is, he'll not express disagreement, but he'll always do something where he shows his resentment and disagreement, right? So, so it's essentially how you handle any kind of human relationships. Right? So you try to be transparent, you do your best to say that this is the path where we are going and highlight the benefits. Sometimes it doesn't work, and that's always the issue. Then how do you take care of this loyal person? So one of the formulas where I've seen it work reasonably well is you start an R&D division, push this person to that R&D division, let him sit there. Joe knows what I'm talking about. He would have seen the same thing. So let him sit in that R&D. It's a technical guy. Give him that independent charge, make him feel happy, and then slowly let him wake up to that reality that you don't have to tell that he will slowly realize. Right? So he or she will slowly realize. So that's one of the best ways I've seen this being handled. I know Joe is smiling because he can relate to that particular example.
Hi sir, so my name is Pawan. Hi Babu sir, hi guys. So my question is basically right now US is having its tariff issues and it's very tough to do business in US. So what other country would you recommend for companies which are focusing on SaaS models or software digital first models to explore?
So I'm glad you asked about SaaS models and not any product, physical product. So SaaS models are much easier because there is no country of origin sticker attached to it. Right? So only if you are going to something like defense, that's the only place where it matters. Otherwise, you don't show any country of origin. So I was commenting in one of our groups that you can't ever put a tariff on any servers because Indians are clever enough to set up a single room office in Dubai and sell from there. So that's the simplest example. But I see tariffs as an opportunity, and I tend to agree with what Mr. Sabu from Kitex is doing. You explore, you take this as an opportunity, explore new markets, product innovations, and the reason I'm saying this is I have faced the same problem in my services. US was once upon a time, in 1 year, about 90% of my business. It's still a major part of my business, but I was really scared that year, even though I made a lot of money, because I don't want that kind of dependency on anybody. That's my, that's my core motto. I want to stay independent. That's why I'm doing this. Right? So, so this is your opportunity to explore other markets, but there are certain things that you have to keep in mind. Right? One, we have spoiled the US customers to think that they don't know technology, only we can do technology, and therefore whatever we offer is the best, right? But that may not be true in other markets. So if you go to, again, Russia, I have a startup founder who went to Russia for drone tech. And this is 1 year ago, or almost 2 years ago. He came back pretty much empty-handed because drone tech there is much more advanced than what he's talking about. Right? So even then, because they are testing it in different ways that we are seeing now, applications that we are seeing now. So there could be markets, I don't know your specific product, this is also not a good forum to talk about that specific angle, but generally there could be markets where you could look at similar kind of users.
In terms of financial strength?
Yeah, so financial strength, that's always, so you don't, so US for instance has a structured way where you can evaluate your customer, right? But there are other ways of doing it in other markets. So you go through networks. So what I mean by networks is it could be something like a tie, right? I'm just giving you an example. Or it could be go to somebody who's a member of TIE. So that's one. Maybe you have a community network maybe you have or you know a Malayali sitting somewhere who can evaluate that customer for you, right? So those are some of the possibilities. The others, there are structured ways you could do through these export promotion forums that are there, but they tend to be more physical product focused than tech product focused. But you have NASCOMs and GTech and other forums which can still do the same job. May not to the same extent, but still. The other way is tie-ups in these kind of markets. You probably give up some markup, but you are essentially offering somebody a way to keep making money while they are doing something else also. Right? So those are some of those possibilities.
Do you have countries that you would like to recommend?
Then we can take off there. So you are my contact. So that's why I said not specifics.
Hi Krishnan, good evening. I'm Michael. So I have a question on succession planning. I'm a senior businessman who's about to retire, first year businessman. So what kind of tips do you have for him?
So I missed the part in the middle.
He's a retired businessman, he's about to retire.
Yeah.
First generation businessman. So he wants to have a
Next
generation coming.
Okay. So so recently I was dealing with industry where this is very common in Kerala, and I had a buyer who was evaluating. So I also do M&As. I had a buyer who was looking at that specific sector, and very common thing. The founder would be old, 60s, 70s, sometimes even past. The next generation would be somewhere else, Bangalore or even abroad. So that's a very common situation in Kerala. And the other place I found is in Goa. The only difference is there are enough businessmen who are at that kind of level. So one very easy solution is, do you have an employee who can step into that role, right? So what usually happens with this business is, we could look for a buyer. So that is one option. But the problem with the buyer is you will not get best terms, because they are coming in. If it is somebody from your same industry, they'll know more about you than you know about yourself. If it is somebody from outside, they'll have that suspicion, right? So outside the industry, so they'll have always that suspicion. Therefore, you get a lower multiple. The second case is you find employee or general manager or whoever is in that position, figure out a way to help him buy your business or make him a partner. So if it is a long-standing employee, you would have already evaluated whether they are trustworthy and whether you can, normally you would have something like that in your organization. So that's one way to look at it. The other simpler way is to just find a group of employees who can do this, right? I'm not saying this is very easy, because there are a lot of things that can go wrong in that process, and you don't have enough runway to make that happen.
Sure.
So all of that will play in your mind, but then still that is your best bet at this point.
This generation, it is next generation, is new gen take it over. So in that case, what tips you have in mind for them?
So new generation
For his own family, so next generation.
So
It's a
so I
transition.
Yeah, so I had interviewed three, the first generation and the next generation businessmen in a forum like this. So this is one question I asked all the three, and without naming names, asked all the three, and so their answers are also different. So in one case, they had allocated one specific area to line to one of the children, and then they are running, and the founder is, or the senior person is slowly stepping away. In the other case, what he said was, one fine morning, dad came and told me, I'm retiring today. You have to take over. But he's already in the business, so it was not too hard, but still, that is the experience that he had. The third case is, both of them are doing the same thing. The sun is trying to bring in newer technologies, do the division within that. So there are different formula that you can work out depending on what your business is and how what capabilities are different between the two of you or three of you.
Thanks.
I think can we take that as the last question?
Good evening. Good evening, sir. My question is, how can you convince an investor to invest in our startup?
I wish I knew. I'm saying this with all humility. I take startups to investors. I've taken larger businesses to investors. You usually get with the expectation that you will get a no. Right? So primarily, some of these no's are actually good for you. Eventually it will turn out to be good for you. But the point I'm trying to make is, it's like the old arranged marriage. So you take the proposal, sometimes both parties say yes, otherwise one of them will say no. In some cases, both will say no. Right? So all that happens. And I usually give that analogy for when I'm talking to the students or other groups, but these days I've stopped because that's not the practice. Right? So, so that is one way to do this. But see, the point is, again, coming back to this, finding a partner analogy. What are you looking for in that partner? Right? So you are looking for somebody who will stay with your good days and bad days, stay with you together, as well as the other larger thing that you look for in a partnership is, do they have complementary skills and similar value systems, right? So if you are an introvert, you probably are looking for an extrovert as a partner. Whether you get it or not is a different story. That's different this thing altogether, but that's what you're looking for, right, when you set out. So same thing with an investor. What do they bring to the table? More than money. So that's what you look for. Whether they can bring, in some cases, they may have enough industry connects to bring in people. So where I go in as an investor, in some cases, people are asking for things like solving their financial issues, having in some cases, it's a shoulder to cry on that somebody is asking for. And eventually you will get to know what the other person is also good at. So during dating you figure out what the other person is good at, and then you also modify your personality accordingly, right, in some cases, if you really desire that other person. So same dynamics also come into play. So in one case I get to hear all kind of problems from the founder that he's facing, and at the end of it he will give me the good news, because he says, you hear everything and then you say a few words, but those actually point to the right direction in a lot of cases. So in some cases it works, in some cases it doesn't work. So what you're looking for is clearly somebody who's an investor more than the money. So that's how I usually say in the older crowd.
I hope the question's over.
So thank you very much. I think especially the youngsters and the young minds with grey hairs have also asked a lot of questions, and I believe Seshadri has been able to give justice to all the questions that have been put forth. And some of you will probably want to ask him something offline. He's available with us for you to ask him. Anyway, I once again, like I said, and what Sudarshanji just told us, you're probably tired of seeing me all the time on stage, and I thought I'll take a break, but then Harikumar sir wanted me back on stage today. So
two years before he was not such a big speaker. Now he speaks like.
Yeah, thank you.
And you come here nowadays, you hear two speeches, one by the president or the past president, and then the speaker. And sometimes you have got to evaluate who is the better one.
I hope it's a compliment. It's not the other way around. Thank you. Yeah, and what is just displayed out there and what you're seeing here is the result of our hard work for the last 1 year. And you know, I think we should all give ourselves a pat on our back or clap for what we have got and having been recognized as the best in the country. So now I would request Anoop to propose a vote of thanks.
Good evening, everyone. On behalf of KMA, I'd like to thank our distinguished speaker, Mr. Seshadrinathan, for being so kind to join us and share your valuable insights and for addressing all our questions. There were many questions today. You were kind enough to answer all of them in detail. So thank you. Please give a round of applause to our speaker. I would also like to thank Bibu sir for bringing our speaker, and also like to congratulate him for his exceptional term and for buying the award in Delhi. Special word and thank you for all our members and guests for joining us this evening, and special word of praise to our KMA staff for working tirelessly behind the scenes to ensure a smooth conduct of the event. I thank you all once again and look forward to seeing you all again for our few upcoming events. Thank you and good night.
Now I would like to invite our immediate past president, Mr. Bibu Punuran, to hand over a token of appreciation to our chief guest.
Can we all write through the national anthem?
अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड़ उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय जय जय